Welcome to the Winning in the Marketplace podcast show. I strongly believe that everything is going on well with you and you're having fun. And today, just like ever, we'll be discussing a very, very interesting subject in our lives, in our job, in our career, in the marketplace, wherever we find ourselves. A time comes when we come to a crossroad. That's the truth. And most times when we get to the crossroad, we find it difficult to be able to navigate our way through. Now, these crossroads are inevitable. A lot of people get stuck and lack exactly what to do. And in today's episode, we'll be looking at the subject, turning your adversity into an advantage. Turning your adversity into an advantage. Sometimes back, as a young newbie entrepreneur, I was so excited about my vision that I committed some errors and some blunders like that, and I was finding it very difficult to navigate my way through. I had just come out of paid employment. I was seeking to actually transition from paid employment into, business ownership or entrepreneurship or doing business. And I had already ascertained the fact that this is what I want to do. Right? Now, if you're being in paid employment over time, there is the possibility that you would undervalue some critical business facts that ought to take precedence before you step out. So I was so excited by this vision. I had money. I wanted to do consulting and training and consulting. So I got this very big, fantastic office. But then I didn't think of the customer. And so I got stuck. And I began to think of what to do as the days and the months began to pass by. And 1 year passed by. My rent was running, but I wasn't making any meaningful income, right? I was supposed to look for customer before looking for an office. So lead generation was supposed to be a fundamental or a foundational step for me that I was completely ignorant about. I was so sometimes when we set out to do certain things, it's important that we finish before we start. And because of ignorance and circumstances which we find ourselves, sometimes it becomes very difficult for you to be able to navigate your way through. And in this episode, I will be sharing with you a story from the Bible that taught me a very wonderful lesson, and I know that it's going to do you a blessing too. But before we jump into tackling that, we'll be looking at what are the 3 biggest mistakes that many people make when they are starting off. 3 biggest mistakes that is made, the 3 biggest mistakes that most people make that stop them from turning their ugly situations into a beautiful experience. So what exactly could be your ugly situation in business, in life, whatever, in your career? There will be those times will come. You see, ugly situations are inevitable. They are inevitable. But then they are not insurmountable. Whether in business, whether in career, whether on the job, whether in your family, whether in your relationships, those ugly times are going to come. When they happen in business, how do you handle them? And when they happen on the job, how would you handle them? I was sharing my experience that when I was starting out, transitioning from paid employment into becoming an entrepreneur, the theory that we read from books are quite different from what the reality is when you get into the marketplace for real. That's the sincere truth about that's the sincere truth. So I misplaced my priorities in the sense that I had all the cash to be able to kick off the business. Having the money is not what is principal, but knowing exactly what to do and how to utilize the resources within your disposal and those that are accessible to you will determine how you are going to fare in that particular business or in that undertaking. It could be on the job as well. You might be waiting to get to change your job because you're no longer comfortable where you are. But how are you going to be able to turn the ugly situation at work where you spend almost 90%, 75 to 90% of your life, 40 hours a week? How are you going to turn the ugly experience there into an advantage or a beautiful experience? So turning your adversity into an advantage will require you understanding first or avoiding the mistakes that are possible that may occur while you are in waiting for your breakthrough. But how do you move? How do you transition without hurt, without bruises, without injuries? You would have some bruises, no doubt, but then how do you swiftly be able to manage your transitioning period? If you have sales drought, how are you going to, or you have financial drought, how are you going to manage what you have within the time you will require in order to be able to get new inflow, right? Just the same way you manage when you exhaust your salary, between the time that the salary gets exhausted and when the next salary is going to come, what are your learnings? What mistakes do people make? So the three biggest mistakes that most people make that stop them from turning their ugly situation into a beautiful experience. What is the number one mistake that they make? The number one mistake that most people make is that they undervalue what they currently have. The moment you get to a deadlock, there is that thinking that I've exhausted all that I can do. So you begin to look at what exactly is this? Like I was saying, and I'm going to share with us immediately after we discuss these mistakes, the number one mistake is the fact that they often undervalue what they currently have. When you hit the rock, there's still a reserve. It looks like leftover. Sometimes leftovers are just the raw materials that we currently need at that particular time to be able to get the amount of knowledge and training we need in order to manage what is bigger than that. Number two mistake that is often made is that most people beat themselves too hard to think out a solution. A lot of people just get stuck. The moment you hit the rock or a particular unplanned situation happens, what happens is that it's like a closed mindset, right? You beat yourself too hard. If only we can take things easy with ourselves, we will be able to save the day. I believe strongly that if you can sit down to think enough, you'll be able to save the day. Like I got to that critical point where I had to sit down and say, okay, I am not making money, but then my fixed expenses are running. Like my rent is running and I am not making money. So what do? I started to do what exactly do I have? I did a review of what I had and began to write books. I began to invest and convert my time into writing books and creating solution products. That's what I did. But the mistake that a lot of people make is that they beat themselves too hard to think out a solution. And what is the third mistake that many people make? The third mistake that a lot of people make is that they think they have done all they can. They think that what they have done all they can. So they stay stuck. There's nothing else I can do. They fold their arms. If only they will be more open to new learning and new knowledge and take new action, a lot of things would be different. And this takes me to the major issue or matter in this particular episode, which is strictly about how the 7 secrets that turned the cruise of oil into the oil of wealth. Like I said in the beginning, in the introductory part of this episode, that I'm going to share with you one of the revolutionary stories that helped me to be able to turn my adversity into an advantage. And that story is one of the familiar stories from the Bible, right? I consider the Bible as a book of solution. There's virtually no scenario that would happen that you would not be able to find clues and solution blueprints from the Bible, right? Now, I remember very well that there was a time when a particular company, during one of the trying periods, business disruption times, one of the companies that could not cope with competition decided to do something else. What is it that they decided to do? They decided to strip all their services of the exotic and maintain the basic. That's what they did. So they simply sat back and reviewed what exactly are the core needs of our customers. And when they thought of the core needs of their customer, they were in the transportation business, airline business. And what they did was that they removed luxury from their services, right? Because that was the only way that they could be able to still render the core, the basic, the fundamental service to the customer and stay in business. So what they did was that there was no luxury. All they think about was the reason for transportation is to move from one point to another. And that's exactly what they did. There was no menu. There was no preference. So basically, on the lower rung of the market were people that actually the business, the turbulence of the times, and that the economic hardship that was prevalent at that particular time will not afford them, will not give them that opportunity to be able to buy at premium prices. So they reduce the value to the basic so that they can accommodate a larger market share and stay in business. So just like that particular business decided to destruct themselves, to self-destruct in order to be able to thrive in those trying times, the same thing happened in this particular story, and it became a basic and a fundamental. It created 7 fundamental principles that will help you to be able to turn any form of ugly situation into a beautiful experience. Like I said, our ugly experiences vary from one person to another. It could be in business, it could be with your sales, it could be with your finances, it could be with your relationship, it could be with your family. What do you do? What are the initial steps that you can take when those things happen? It is important for you to be able to understand this, simply because ugly times are inevitable. Problems are inevitable. Problems are natural with man. There will always be problems. Problems are our gate pass to our breakthroughs. Problems are ladders of our growth. Problems open up our potentials to us. Problems challenge our potentials. So, and that's why wherever you find problem, there is an opportunity. But then you must understand how to be able to convert your adversity into your advantage. Now, from that story, it was the story of the wife of a prophet whose husband got indebted, right, and used his 2 sons as collateral for the indebtedness. We're not told what exactly he borrowed the money for, but then there are enough things we can deduct that could make a priest or a prophet to do what? To go into borrowing. It could either be to meet the family obligations and so many things. He probably maybe undertook a business adventure that failed. But unfortunately, the prophet died and left the debt unattended to. And then the the creditors came in quest for their money and probably the interest as well. And they met the wife coming to take over the promised collateral for the money that her husband had borrowed. Right. And in that was a very ugly situation, right? But what are the things that this woman did in order to turn that particular ugly situation into a beautiful experience? What did she do? What steps did she take that metamorphosed or changed her story from that misery into something that became a fundamental principle and a yardstick, a basis, and a lesson for many others to be able to exit their own ugly situation and turn them into a beautiful experience? And so the story had it that she ran to a prophet, a fellow prophet who was her husband's peers or colleagues, right? And thank God that the prophet she ran to had a solution script for her, and he engaged her in a conversation. And thank God the woman was coachable. She had an open mind. She was ready to grow, and she was ready to do whatever it takes in order to be able to get out of that situation. So what are the things that we can learn from that particular story? Just like we said in the first part, that what the three biggest mistakes that most people make that stops them from turning their ugly situation into a beautiful experience is the fact that one is they undervalue what they have, what they currently have. And number two is that they think that there's nothing more they can do about their current situation. And most of the time, they do not know exactly what they need to do. So from her story, we were able to extract 7 secrets that turn the cruse of oil. The cruse of oil, what all she had. Like when she got to the prophet asked her, what do you have in your house? That's to say, nobody is ever left without something to start with. Nobody. No matter how bad you think your situation is, you are always left with something to begin with. The thing that you are left with may not be what you think it is. So most of the time we undervalue that thing that is supposed to be our first step to our breakthrough, our first step to transiting from that ugly situation into a beautiful experience. And many of the time, because we are overwhelmed by that current situation, we cannot think. We think we are boxed in, and we cannot think outside the box again. We cannot reason without the box, right? And she said, I do not have anything. That tells us that she undervalued what she had in the first place. And then it said, then she remembered, except a cruse of oil, right? A cruse of oil. Then he said, oh, you have a cruse of oil. That's a fantastic place to begin. Many people, when they lose their job, they think that everything is gone. You only lost your job. You did not lose your life, and you did not lose your mind. It's only when you have attached everything that you can possibly become to that job that you die with that job, right? So you have life, you have experience from the same job. So those are your cruse of oil. Your cruse of oil may be the last money that you have, but where do you invest this money? Now, this is where the conversation between a trusted advisor that she went to and herself did the magic of transiting, of turning her adversity into advantage, right? She had an open mind. She was ready to try something new, right? She had an open mind, was ready to try something new, and was willing to be committed to do whatever it takes in order for her to get out of that ugly situation. So what's the first thing that she did? What is the first thing? So we have 7-step model, turning your adversity into an advantage. Turning your adversity into an advantage, right? The first step was that she reviewed her situation and sought help, right? Review the situation and seek help. it's always important that when you get to crossroad, sit back, right? A lot of people rush into, there's a difference between rush and quick action, right? Somebody said there is a difference between rush and quick action. A quick action is an intelligent decision based on a review of circumstance, while a rush is what stepping out without any form of thinking at all or review of the situation. So when ugly situations happen, the normal human response is to jump out, but it's always important to calm down, right? To calm down, to know exactly, to sit back. You don't run because others are running. Find out. Sometimes people say it might be too late. If you have to wait, when you see people running, start running. It might be too late to be able to what? To ask questions about what exactly is chasing them. But what if what is chasing them has nothing to do with you? It's just a possibility. So it's good to review, what exactly am I running to? What exactly am I running to? Number one is to do what? Step number one is to what? To review your situation. She reviewed the cruise of oil, the beginning process, or the life of the cruise oil, or the cruise of oil began with the fact that she was able to review her situation and to seek for help in the right places. One thing is that a lot of people get stuck because they are so confused, they don't know where to run to. If you know where to run to, it is a step ahead of your former situation. Are we together? Good. Now, what's the next thing to do? Step number 2, look inward and expand the worth of what you warehouse. Now, what do you warehouse is what do you have inside you, right? What do you have at home? Now, there's the story of the woman that had 10 coins and one was missing. And what she did was to sweep the entire house, knowing fully well that that one coin is there. And when she found the one coin, what happened? Her joy multiplied. So you've got to look inwards. Just like the woman remembered initially, upon review, upon rethink, she remembered that she had a cruse of oil. And then the cruse of oil became what? You look inward in order to expand the worth of what you warehouse. When you sit down and think, okay, what do I know? I've spent a couple of years on this job, and now I have to go. I'm asked to go. What can I do? What next? Or probably you're just graduating from school and you're just thinking, what is the next step forward for you? What's the next step forward? Or probably you've just started your business. You're just starting out in business, and then what is required is beyond what you presently have. Where can you start? We're starting out a business sometimes many years back, and what was required for us to become a distributor as a then, we wanted to do distributorship. But what was required for us to do the distributorship at that particular time was far above what we had. So we sat down, myself and my wife, and said, what can we do? Where can we start? We started looking inward. We can become a sub-dealer under another dealer, right? So we decided to take what? Refuge under another person who already started, right? So it's good to think big, but you have to start small. That's what happens when you review your situation and ask for help. Now the help can come from external party, and the help can come from your reasoning as well, right? You look up, you look around, you look inward, then you look inward. Step number 3, learn as much as possible from those willing to teach and help. How does this relate to the story that I shared with you? It relates to the story in the sense that what happened was that he said, okay, go and what? Borrow vessels from your neighbors, right? Go and borrow vessels. Borrow as many as you can, right? Now, there's a small cruse of oil, and then because she trusted the counsel of the person that she ran to. If you don't believe that the person can help you in the first place, why run to that person, right? So why run to the person if you do not believe that the person can help you, right? So, and he gave her instruction, and that's why you must be coachable. You must have a coachable spirit, right? Are you teachable? If you are not teachable, you are going to lose a lot of things. And what? Be ready to learn, right? Be ready to learn. And what did she do? She decided to go as instructed. Go and borrow vessels. Borrow as much as possible. Then get back to your house. Get back to your house. Go and borrow as many as possible vessels and get back to your house. And she went. Why was it possible for her to borrow vessels, right? Those people had sufficient vessels that they were not using. Apparently, if they do not have vessels to give to her, they wouldn't have availed her any vessel at all, right? So she went. She took the risk of asking, do you have spare vessels? And she went like that and borrowed as many as possible, right? As while you don't know what your next step will be, while you are not sure whether the organization that you are sending the application to is going to consider you for engagement or not, you are still going to take that step of faith. Why? Taking the step of faith doesn't mean you should write a shabby CV or resume, right? Stepping out, trying to try out a business or stepping into business, looking for something to do does not mean you step out to do just anything. You need to do what? Do some basic research in order for you to start well and start out right. So learn as much as possible. Be ready to learn as much as possible for those who are willing to help and those who are willing to teach. There are quite a number. Almost before you buy premium, there's always a free version. The free version gives you hints, an idea of where to start. And the free version could also come along with what? Discount offers, where you can take advantage of that discount offer, multiply your capacity. You are stuck before because your current abilities cannot meet or suffice for the opportunities that are coming your way, right? That's why you're stuck. So when you have an offer that what you currently have can buy, what do? You take an intelligent risk in order to be able to expand your opportunities. So step number 4, think of solving other people's problem. Despite the fact that you are in a mess, right? The only way you're going to get out of your mess or turn your adversity into an advantage is still having to help another person that's with what you already have. For instance, they said, if life gives you sour grape, what do? You make lemonades with them, right? You get out of your job, you have just lost your job, but thank God, what are the things you learned on the job? Who will they be useful to? So what happens is that what you think of what solving other people's problem. By solving other people's problem, you get your own problem solved. A wise man said that if you can help as many people as possible to solve their problem, your own problems will equally be solved, right? So step number 5, promote what you produce. If you don't tell people what you can do, they may never know what you can do. You've got to show up with what you have. So what did she have? She said what? She had a small cruise of oil. You understand? She went in and gathered the vessel and gave her instruction. What do? He said what? You should pour them, multiply what you have, expand the worth of what you have. He said what? Pour the cruise of, keep pouring until you have exhausted what? Pouring it. You have exhausted all the vessels that you have. So you must be ready to put in your best, to put your best foot forward. If you really want to get an advantage, if you want to live where you used to be and to be able to begin a journey to where you desire to be, then you must be willing to take a step that will divorce you from where you used to be. So step number 5 is for you to promote what you have. Step number 6 is what? Use all you have to empty your situation and turn it around, right? You must go all out, right? You must be determined. Beyond your desire, you need determination. And with determination, you need intentionality to be able to substantiate the fact that you are really in need. So you need positive desperation, right? Positive desperation. You must go all out. And what is step number 7? You embrace what? Sustainability and lifestyle management. And she came back and told the prophet that I've done everything that you said I should do. Now what happened was that the little cruise of oil had the potential of expansion, but because it was not engaged, right? It was not engaged, the possibilities of the expansion were not seen. So if you undervalue what you have, you are going to lose the potentials within what you have, right? So that small cruise of oil, by instruction, by training of somebody that knows better than you. That is the reason why you need mentors, you need coaches. Your mentors are ladders. They have gone beyond you and have experience in certain things that you are yet to go through. It is possible that what you're presently passing through, they have gone through that stage, and they will be able to give you information that is going to be useful for what you are in need of. So these are the things that you must do. These 7 steps are the steps that you must take in order for you to be able to really do what? Turn your adversity into an advantage. So it's been a very wonderful time sharing with you today. I'll say that these steps should be your companion, right? The first thing to do is to review your situation and seek help, and then look inwards and expand the worth of what you have. Step number 3 is to learn as much as possible for those willing to teach. There are always people willing to teach anytime and every time. And then think of solving other people's problem. He said, go and sell what you have produced. And she went sell, and she came back with a report that she's done with the selling. He said, go and pay off your debts and live on the rest. That was the last step. Embrace sustainability and lifestyle management. You must ensure that through those your trying time, through those your ugly period, you are able to learn and not to repeat or recycle such an experience. And that's the beauty of what you're learning from that particular challenge. So every challenge is meant to change our situation. And I can tell you for free that if you take these steps, you'll be happy and you'll be glad that you did. So on today's episode, I know it's been a very, very awesome and wonderful time. So I would, if you've got questions on this episode, let me know. Again, you can see those steps there. Haven't known what the 3 biggest mistakes are, you can just avoid those mistakes and ensure that you are not a victim of these 3 big mistakes that we have discussed. Never ever undervalue what you have. Don't beat yourself too hard that you can't think of a solution, and never think you have done everything that you can. And the moment you are able to go beyond these 3 big mistakes and able to apply those 7 steps, you'll be able to turn your adversity into an advantage. I hope this has been a very wonderful session with you. So that is it for now, and it's been an awesome time sharing with you. Let me know what this particular session has done for you, or how helpful this particular episode has been. And if you have questions that you think we should handle in subsequent episodes, why don't you just drop them down in the comment box. So my name remains Julius Afolabi, your #1 premium business coach, career optimizer, and result architect in the marketplace. Thank you very much for showing up in the Winning in the Marketplace podcast show today. Thank you, and God bless you. You can follow us on our social media, on my social media handles, and also subscribe to this particular channel to get more of solution scripts like this one. Thank you, and God bless you.